it's the first session. I know it's early. We're all tired, but hopefully we can all get energized and start learning again today. Yesterday was amazing. It was outstanding to hear from the speakers and speak with some of you. So let's do it again today. Hopefully tomorrow if you guys are doing jitter. So let's get started. So today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about some things that you can do to really get to the root of your users' needs. This talks about how you can essentially break out of the confines of your office, break out of the confines of your mind and your team's mind, and really understand how you can tackle the needs of your users. So let's get started. I have two goals for today. The first is to showcase the power of sourcing your product direction from your users rather than elsewhere. And then the second is to identify how you can integrate this workflow into your own process. So what can we do, and then how do we actually make it happen? So to start, hopefully all of you are familiar with YouTube. We are a very recognizable brand, and what that comes with is obviously a lot of opinions. I can put the mic to anybody now, and they can give me a suggestion about YouTube, a desire, something they hate, something they like. So as you can imagine, because of the global nature of our brand, we have a lot to hear from our users. And as a result, we get people screaming things at us, right? We have a lot to parse through. So because of that, we've had to come up with some interesting ways on how to really break down what our users are saying. We hear a lot, so how can we really make it useful for us in our product direction? And of course, usability tests is very fundamental in what we do. But as I mentioned, how can we kind of take it a step beyond that and take it beyond the mocks, beyond the paper, beyond a design that we've already prototyped, and understand the fundamental needs, the foundational needs of our users. Really understanding what they want, why they want it, what's driving them to this desire, and how we can improve our product around what's working, what's not working, and then take it to the next level. So the way that I'm gonna break down the talk is through these who, what, where, when, why, and how. I'm gonna walk through about 3 things for each of these on ways that you guys can try to implement this into your own work. But before that, I want to talk a bit about some examples that we've done at YouTube to try to tackle this ourselves. So just to give you a bit of background, my role at YouTube is to drive the operations across our product, engineering, and design teams around a new thing that we have called community, which is essentially trying to understand how we can, as YouTube, enable our creators, which you'll hear me reference them as our users, our YouTube creators, those who are making videos, have a stronger connection with their fans on the platform, those who are watching their videos, those who are engaging with them. How can we enable the creator-fan to connection much better, keep people on our platform, and enable these communities to grow and continue to be strong? So that's a little bit about that. And because of this, this area that we're trying to tackle, as you can imagine, we have to talk to users, we have to talk to our creators, and we have to understand how can we enable this type of thing via an app? How do we get these smiles? How do we get this excitement just through a website and through a mobile phone? So one of the things that we've done is something called Creator Love, and this is a program that I have been spearheading at the company, where we go out to the field and speak with creators. We give them love, hence the name, and they give us love back by telling us things that they would want out of YouTube. So in the picture, as you see here, that is my colleague Renato, who is speaking with some creators who were in Argentina for a creator camp. And as you can see, they're listening very intently to what he has to say. But quite frankly, we are the ones listening intently to what they're telling us, right? Through this program, we go out, we speak to them. We do a few things, a number of things. For example, one of the things that we do is something called Dear YouTube, where we have creators write us essentially a love letter or a breakup letter telling us why they are either in affinity with YouTube or why they're trying to think about this relationship, right? Through this, we get very, very, very interesting comments about what's working, what's not, what is the underlying motivation of some of our users, why they're really doing this, what's driving it for them. And this is a very interesting and unique way that is different from usability testing, but really gets to the root of why people are doing this. And then we interpret it as something that we can do on ourselves. Another thing that we do, that we trialed and have seen great success, is something called magic buttons, where we say, hey, if you had a magic button that you could press anywhere on YouTube and it would do any action, think out of the box, what would that be? So this allows people to shake out of the normal interface that they're used to and say, you know what? Gosh, if I can just have anything be automated, or if I can just not have to do something myself, what would that really be? In fact, it would be this. So hopefully we get the presentation back. Maybe it's just my computer. But through this, we can understand, again, why people aren't getting what they need out of YouTube, and what it is that we can do to build something as a product to help automate these solutions, to help drive away frustration, and once again, getting to the root of why they're on the platform. So another thing that I did when I first started at YouTube was essentially started as a side project, and being new, I was like, oh, manager, I have this idea, what can you do? And when you're at Google, it's, oh, okay, person, if you have something, just go do it. There's no question. If you have something, we believe in you, just go start it. So I started this report. I called it the Creator Voice Report, where we sourced the actual quotes of what users were telling us on scaled platforms such as social media, our forums, our feedback forms, taking the quotes directly and putting them in a report and then showcasing them to the entire company, saying, this is exactly what a creator said to us in their words, not anything that we've interpreted ourselves, but this is how they think of it, these are the terms they use, this is what they do, and here are some proposed solutions around what we can do, here are the people that can affect it, here is the volume that we're seeing of these things, and here is the actual meeting time that we're gonna have to come up with a solution around this. Right, so this was something that I started, and again, it started as a side project, and now it is a report that bubbles up to our CEO on a monthly basis, which is excellent. We are really turning into a place where we care about our users' needs, and again, want to hear it in their words, in their mouths, because it's different than the Silicon Valley terms that we use. We want to hear from the person in Montana, the person in Barcelona, the person anywhere, so that they can tell us what they need. So this was another example. I really believe that what we're trying to do as a company, and what hopefully all of you guys are trying to do in your own work, is to evoke emotion. What we're doing is not, oh, I really want people to touch the screen. I really want people to just get their phone and touch the screen. It's about these emotions, right? It's about the guy up there laughing at, I don't even know what that is, but apparently something very funny, right? It's about the family who can get together around a tablet and laugh. Those are the moments that we as a company are waiting for, that you guys in your own work are trying to evoke, right? It's not about touching the screen, it's about doing these things. So what are the steps that you can take in between that? One of them happened to be your product to enable these types of things as the end goal. The end goal shouldn't be completing interaction, the goal should be to evoke these types of things. So once you understand what these are, that can really lead you in a great way to what your end goal is for your company. Similarly, we have to make sure that we understand that, yes, we're trying to get something out of our users, but they also just want to do what they want to do, right? Our creators just want to have these moments with their fans. They just want to form a community around them. They just want to inspire people. So how do we, again, just use our app, use our website as a way to enable these types of things? Very often, it's easy to forget in technology that people are still human beings, and they have emotions, and they have feelings and things that evoke them. They're not just thumbs clicking on a screen, they're actual people. So how can we leverage those types of things that will never go away with us in the world, so that we can get people to leverage our technology in easier ways? So I'm now going to walk through the who, when, where, why, and how, and once again give 3 tips in each on what we can do, hopefully together, to enable these types of things more broadly. So the first in who is take a general approach to earn foundational understanding as opposed to usability tests. So once again, we still do usability tests, so we're a big fan of that. That is a completely critical part of what we do to make sure that our interactions are working. But once you start doing these types of general approaches, it allows you to kind of break free from that. And instead of saying, okay, we're going to do testing for this specific launch, V1 of this, it's instead, let's just take a broad approach and just go talk to people and say, hey, what are some of your needs, right? Take a general approach, and then that takes away from a lot of the pressures to get the test right. It's just listening. You just have an open ear, and that's the goal. The second is segment users into personas. Hopefully some of you guys are doing this. This is something that we like to do as well, depending on what it is. But try to identify what type of bucket or segment your users can fall into. Is it the classroom teacher who is just getting home from a school day? Is it the teenager in their bedroom that's trying to find connection? Is it 2 kids who just finished skateboarding and want to learn more skateboarding videos? Is it the gamer who's trying to find the latest tips and tricks or watch PewDiePie? Whatever it is, try to identify what some of the patterns are with some of your users so that when you go out and talk to them, you can start identifying them, and then when you bring them back to the company, you can say, for this type of user, they're looking for these types of things. It really helps categorize what you're doing in a useful way. The next is find those with the willingness to provide useful feedback. So once again, at YouTube, we have 1 billion users, and there are a number of people who can talk to us about what they're doing, but not everybody, frankly, provides useful feedback. Not everybody is willing either. So you have to really, when you're doing these types of things, suss out the people who you think would be willing to talk to you, right? If you're talking to a number of people in this room and you hear some good feedback from some, good feedback from other, don't spend time with the person who isn't really trying to give feedback. They just want to use your product perhaps. But the person who is really engaging, who's really giving you stuff back, listen to them, talk to them. They want to do something with you. So it's very worth it for you to bring some of those words back in. Now on to what. So ask about the overarching product. Users do not understand your organizational hierarchy. This is something we fall into a lot at YouTube, where somebody who is working on comments will go talk to a user and they'll say, hey, I have a question about copyright. Like, why is this, that? What are the things? And then the PM for comments can say, I don't really work on that, so there's nothing I can do. I'm here to talk about comments, right? And that, the user doesn't get that. For them, we're one person, we're one YouTube, we're one company, and everybody at Google, frankly, knows everything about the entire company. But even though this isn't the case, you can't necessarily make your users feel like that. They don't know who the PM is, and they don't care. They just want to get some answers, and they want to give you feedback. So when you do these types of things, you have to have essentially a broad approach. I'm not saying become an expert in everything in your product if you do have a diversified product, but instead just welcome the feedback and have a process where you can let other people know about different things that you hear or guide the user back to some things that you're saying. So for example, if they're worried about copyright and you are interested in things with comments, how can you guide the conversation back to something about fans talking about? Is it, oh, do you not want people to comment about certain things that now have muted your video because of this, right? So how do you kind of get back to what you're interested in? The next is avoid like and dislike and focus on actionability and mobility. So very often, people who aren't necessarily researchers and don't have the training will ask questions like, hey, so you like that, right? You like this product, right? Or, hey, like, what do you do? What do you do when you are frustrated by this? What do you do? Avoiding the like and dislike is something that can be very useful. So for example, if I go up to you and I say, hi, I'm Jacquelle. I am the PM for this great feature at YouTube, and we have been working for the past 2 years on it, and I'm so excited. Tell me what you love about it.
Everything.
So you get either unuseful feedback, or if I say, what do you hate about it? I've been working on it for 2 years. What do you hate about it?
Nothing.
Nobody wants to hurt your feelings, right? So when you put it in that frame, it's hard for people to kind of shake out of what they're doing. But if you instead phrase it as something like, hey, I've been working on this for 2 years, how do you think that this can work to enable your goals better? Or what can you do here that you weren't able to do before that you think is working for you now, right? Those are questions that kind of lead them away from the pressure of, oh, I have to get the question right, or I have to please this person who's been working on it forever, but instead just get them to, particularly what you're trying to find out is the usefulness of the product or not. Next is ask why, then ask why again, then ask why one more time. And this helps get to the underlying motivation of what the user wants. So I want to break this one down a little bit just to showcase for you what I mean here. So an example of what we can do here is, let's say you're talking to a user and they say, hey, can you build X feature? I've been dying for this. Can you just build it? And then you say, oh, why? What's interesting to you about that? Well, I want to be able to talk more often with my fans. Oh, why do you want to do this? I want them to know that I hear them and that I'm here for them. Okay, why is that important? Because I want to foster a sense of connection in my community. So now that you have that underlying motivation, that they want to foster a sense of community, this can now bring a number of features that can enable this type of thing. It may not be the feature X that you want to do. I think somebody else in their presentation said if we asked, what people wanted back in the day, they would want faster horses. I love that quote. It's not necessarily that. It's why do people want this? And then you guys, as the smart people who know your product and how to work with it, can then use that underlying motivation to then provide that for your users. So this is just another trick. Of course, it may be awkward to literally keep asking people why, like the kid that you were back in the day. So if people just give you the top level quote of I want X feature, take it back to your teams and then do this exercise on your own where it's you guys say, I wonder why people feel this way. Maybe it's this. I wonder why people feel this way. So it could be useful if for some reason the conversation directly with the user won't necessarily enable this. Now on to where. Where do you do these types of conversations? So the first thing, of course, is get up, get out of your office, get out of your city if you can, and go out and talk to your users. This is something that we do. The Creator Love program sometimes takes place in the office, but you have to get out and go. One of the key aspects of it is frankly, getting our engineers out to the field, away from their computers, and talking to users. We've had feedback saying, this is honestly the first time that I've actually talked to somebody who uploads on YouTube, and it has completely changed the way that I build, what I'm gonna go back and do. It really makes a difference, and what you do with this is you drive empathy for the people using your product. Why are you building this, right? The people who use Uber, they're not doing it because they want to use an excellent app. They're doing it because they want to get somewhere more efficiently, right? And it's hard to kind of understand that if you're stuck in the confines, so get out and go see what's going on. And similar to that, try to find your product in action, right? It's better to understand how somebody's using it if they're able to do it in a way that it's actually true to what they're doing, right? So if you're doing a game, get them in an environment where they would actually be playing that game so that you can understand the true ways of how they're using your product. The next is achieve a global perspective to uncover unique needs. If your product is in fact something that reaches globally, you have to find a way to go out and find the needs that live elsewhere. We often fall into this where a lot of people just design for the US and it is completely different from needs everywhere else. Every time I come to Europe, it's a completely different perspective than the US. When we go to South America, it is very different. They have different cultural norms. They have different things that worry them, different things that concern them, and we all have to take that into account and design the product with that in mind. And at least be knowledgeable about that so that when we go out and engage with them, we understand what they're doing, right? So try not to design only for one area, one thing. If your product is global, you have to go out and identify, why is this thing here? Why in this country do people feel this way? It is quite different, and we quantify things by country all the time, and we would do it, we aim to do it even more granular often. So when do you put these types of things into action? Time it out when you can flexibly put changes into your product. It's very easy to say, yeah, we want to be very fluid, and we'll be able to change this, but you have to make sure that your product is flexible enough to allow for these types of things, right? It's hard. This isn't a very easy thing to do. This is very idealistic to say, yeah, let's change everything so that it fits into our users' needs, but you have to make sure that you, in your process when you're designing, are allowing for this types of flexibility so that people expect it. Similar to that, it's either never the right time to implement something new, or you always say, yeah, any day. Just let me know. So it's very useful to build out cycles so that it's, hey, once a quarter, we're gonna go out, we're gonna learn during the quarter, and then for this next quarter, I'm used to saying OKRs because of Google, then we're going to execute what we just learned. And then the next quarter, we're gonna do it again, or whether it's 6-week sprints or whatever it is, just build cycles so that your internal teams expect it. You set that expectation that, hey, this is coming, we're going to learn from our users in this way, and yes, we'll have our own plans, but we're going to make sure that we have a pipeline of what we're going to do to solve what we heard from our users directly. Similarly, this helps set the expectation with your users as well. If you externalize that you're doing something like this, or they see that you're listening, this helps them know that, hey, this isn't going to be something that I see next week, but hopefully in a couple months I'll be able to do this. One of the executions that we did under Creator Love, we brought 2 German creators with over 1 million subscribers into the office to speak with our engineers in Zurich, and they were talking with them, and this is the perspective of the user. They said, hey, I would love if you guys could just fix this. Are you able to just do it next week? Can you just do it next week so that I can just move on? And I'm sure you guys all sympathize with that, where it's like, trust me, we wish we could do it next week, but it takes this, it takes this. Users do not care, but because we still cannot do it next week, this again helps them understand the timing of when you'll act upon what they do. They love it when you circle back with them as well and say, hey, we heard this from you, we listened to you, here's what we did about it. If you guys are able to do that, then that is a win for your users, and they feel like they're a part of your product. They're incentivized to join it because they feel like they're building it with you, which is a whole different story. Let me get this back up. Oh, geez, passwords. All right. So the next one is let features marinate a little bit before you go out and get some feedback. So if this works well and you guys are all motivated by this and you want to go out and start talking to your users, you can't do it the next day after you've launched it, or even the next week. You have to let it sit a little bit with the users so that it integrates into their daily lives and their plans, and then go back to them and say, okay, now that you've spent a little bit more time with this, what do you think? How do you feel about it? And how can we make this better? So time it so that you can let it sit with them a little bit before you start gathering some feedback. Now, why? Why is this important? Why do we need to do this? Of course, I've talked about this throughout the presentation, but would love to hit on some points here. First, you have to put yourself in the mindset that there's no other source. There's no other source for telling you what types of changes you need to make in your product. Once again, another presenter said, that we can't design in a vacuum, and you should not listen to C-level executives when you're trying to design. This is true, of course, it's ideal, but you have to just at least put yourself in the mindset that our users are our bosses. We are building for them. They are the ones we need to listen to, and there's no other reason why we should be doing this if not making something work for them. So you have to kind of put yourself in that mode when you start doing stuff like this. Why else should you do this? It helps save time, it helps build the perception externally, and gain clarity. You guys can save a ton of time if you just go to the source directly and find out what's going on instead of spinning wheels inside to identify, oh, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Just go and ask. Just find out from them what's going on. And then again, build the perception, right? Once again, as I mentioned before, if people see that you're listening to them and you're engaging with them, they know that the product is going to grow with their needs, it's going to adapt with them, and they're more likely to use the product with you. Then gain clarity. Similar to saving time, if it's something that you are unclear on, something that you're not sure of, just go out to the source and find out what's going on. Then it reveals the truth, right? Whether it's frank, whether it's brutal, whether it's something you do want to hear, you don't want to hear, you've got to hear it. Every time people, start talking about feedback and they start talking about, oh, I love YouTube and this and that, I'm like, okay, yeah, but get to the good stuff. Like what's not working? What don't you like, right? I'm more interested in hearing what we can do to help advance it than just somebody trying to flatter that YouTube is enabling this. When I do hear positive feedback, I'm trying to think, okay, how can we double down on this? What is working? Okay, great, we need to do more of that because we really need that. Or people are liking this, how do we bring that into the product? How do we pursue this further? So just get to the truth, right? That's all that matters, good or bad. Now, how? How can we try to integrate these types of things into our daily work so that this isn't something that's just ideal? How do we really make this happen? So once you do find these things, conclude the motivations, the questions, the needs, and the pivots. So as I mentioned when we're doing the why are people motivated to use your product? Why are they not motivated to use your product? What else are they motivated to do? Write those out and identify those. Then questions. What else do you need to dive further into to understand better? Okay, you got this feedback and you've identified that it's this, but you're not quite sure why people feel that way. What additional research do you need to do? What usability tests do you need to now create because of these findings? What questions do you have remaining? Then needs, right? What are your users' needs? Just fundamentally, what do people need out of you and how do you match that in the service that you're providing for them? And then pivots. Given all of this, what are you guys going to do to change? What different direction are you going to go? What same direction are you going to keep going in? Just identifying those and mapping those out can be very helpful. And then build a specific path for the user voice within your company. If for some reason you do all of this and there isn't an integrated workflow in your company to allow for this feedback to make its way into your product direction, into your roadmap, it's just gonna be something that just sits on the side, and yes, we'll get to it one day, but you have to build a path from the time that you go out and speak with your users all the way into how you're integrating it and executing it and then launching it. It has to be a specific path, and there can't be any blocks along the way. So think about what those blocks might be and try to rid of those. Think about it kind of in the way of try not to build a cliff, build a mountain. So a cliff is you work so hard, you get all the way to the top, you did all of this discussions with your users, and then it's very nice, and then you just sit there and that's it. But if you build a mountain, you put all of your users' needs, all of their perspectives at the top of what you're doing. Everybody at the company is looking at it. They see that golden thing, and then that is what you use as the core philosophy for what you're building. Then get buy-in on the process and secure its value and impact. You cannot do this successfully, of course, if the leaders at your company don't believe it, if the the junior people at your company don't believe in it. You have to get buy-in across the organization to make sure that people understand that this is something that we're now doing. We're now going to go out to our users, understand what they need, bring that back, and develop our product in that way, right? It has to be something that people are bought into in order for this to really work. So this now went through the steps that you can take to see if you can build this within what you're doing. And through all of this, hopefully what you can get out of it is fundamental pillars, foundational pillars of what your product stands for. So is it that you guys are aiming to, again, evoke smiles, evoke laughter? Is it that you want people to have convenience? You want to cut 3 hours out of people's days, and again, your app or your website is just a medium to get to that point, right? What is the foundational thing that you guys are trying to solve for these human beings, and then work backwards to make sure that your product delivers that? And what just we can remember when we're thinking about all of this is the real win isn't the tap, isn't that they got to the end of the flow, isn't that they did this. The real win is inspiring things like this. So think about what this could be for your products and then develop that way. Thank you all. Appreciate your time and your listening. And I think we will open it for questions. Thank you all.